Hey, this video is going to be about how to make a scatter plot in Google Sheets. So to make a scatter plot, you need to decide what two variables you'd like to plot and which one will be your independent, which one will be your dependent variable. I like to first plan out my graphs using some pen and paper so I kind of get what it's supposed to look like, what I think it's going to look like, and then I actually do it in the spreadsheet program. So I've determined here in my graph that my temperature is going to be my independent variable. That I think the temperature is the thing that influences the CO2. At least that's what my hypothesis is right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those values in temperature. And so I can select the label as first, scroll down holding shift and click the bottom. And now I'm going to say insert a chart. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give another value that I'm going to add to my data. So I'm going to click this button that says select data range, and I'm going to select what I believe is going to be my dependent variable. Again, clicking the first value. So my independent variable is my first, and my add another range, I'm going to add my dependent variable. So in this case, it's going to be CO2, and I'm going to add that by selecting the top value, holding shift down to the bottom, and hit OK. Okay. Right now I've got to a point where I, as a scientist, have to tell Google what to do because Google doesn't really know what kind of graph to make. And so it's trying to make some sort of time series like here. So I need to actually tell it, hey Google, chart type, I want to actually make a scatter plot. So you scroll down until you see scatter plot right here, and then you're going to click scatter plot. Now I have a nice scatter plot of my values. And I look here and I say, ooh, it's missing some things. I don't have the right title. I don't have the right labels, but I can fix those. So I'm going to go to customization and I'm going to type in what I'd like the correct title to be. And once I've typed in the correct title that I'd like, I also am going to make different labels for my axes by labeling my left vertical axis what it's supposed to be, which is the concentration, and labeling the horizontal axis what it's supposed to be by labeling it the temperature. Okay, so now that I've labeled my axes, I'm like, okay, it's getting pretty good. What other things am I missing? Oh, a line of best fit. How do I do a line of best fit? I look at this and I have to first predict, well, it looks pretty straight. Okay, and since it looks straight, I'm going to call that a linear line of best fit. By going down to the bottom, I'm going to tell Google to make a linear line of best fit. And so I'm going to select this spot right here called the trend line. That's what they call a line of best fit. And I'm going to add a linear trend line. And now you can see it's given a trend line. It actually has predicted the equation for the trend line using point slope form. And so you can see that y equals being the equation. And that trend line looks pretty darn good. Okay, it looks like it fits most of the points. However, in science, we use this concept of how well a line fits. We use a value called r squared to represent how well that line fits those values. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the r squared value by clicking here. And now I see we have an r squared value of 0.97. 0.97 is a very, very good value. We are on a scale from 0 to 1. So we're almost at 1 here. So r squared is a great value for this data, meaning that I'm pretty confident in this line of best fit, and I can describe this line as a negative relationship. As temperature increases, the CO2 concentration decreases. And then I can think about what sort of scientific reasoning might explain that for why we might see a decrease in concentration of CO2 in the air as the air temperature in that surrounding area increases. And so again, looking at this graph, it looks pretty good, but it's still missing some things if I was going to be really scientific. I have my values of 0, but it's looking like my values for CO2 are all kind of crunched up here, like I have a break. And so I'm going to go again to my axis, and I'm going to say my left vertical axis. I'm going to actually give values there. So I'm going to say 0 to maybe 500 so that I can show all my values, maybe 0 to 550 so I can get a little room in here. Seeing now that I've changed those values that actually as the temperature increases, the CO2 concentration doesn't decrease dramatically, that it's actually a fairly shallow slope. And that's why it's so important to change our axes to make sure we're representing our data correctly. Okay. Finally, we want to make sure we can change the colors. You can make this graph look a lot nicer, and you can insert it by hitting insert, and voila, we have a graph. If you ever make any changes on your graph and you need to make changes, you can always hit that down button here, and you can go to your advanced edit so you can change things. Again, you can save this as an image to insert it. You can copy it and paste it into your Google Doc this way. All right, happy graph making.